Rock, pop, rap. The music dominating global charts today relies on a shared rhythmic foundation. And if you track those sonic structures back in time, they converge directly on the early 20th century jazz clubs. Long before those clubs opened, the rhythms started here. Jazz evolved from a much older, more sorrowful tradition called the blues, forged by people surviving immense hardship. Trace those acoustic chords back even further, and you find groups singing focused on religious faith and hopes for freedom. These were the spirituals. These vocal traditions were created by enslaved Africans who were violently brought to the Americas. Stripped of their possessions and their homes, the only thing they could carry across the Atlantic Ocean was their culture. History textbooks frequently introduce these people only at the moment they are chained to a ship. We rarely ask who they were before their freedom was stolen. To map the DNA of our modern playlists, we have to uncover the complex African civilizations that thrived for centuries before they were violently disrupted. Around 3000 BCE, sweeping migrations began in West Africa, pushing south and east. These groups introduced advanced farming and ironworking to new environments, communicating in related Bantu languages. This massive expansion explains why 220 million Africans today speak Bantu dialects. Most early Africans lived far from urban centers in rural farming villages, building small, round homes from packed mud. Adults trained the next generation with precise, practical skills. Boys learned to clear fields and forge metal, while girls learned agriculture and specialized trades like weaving. Continent-spanning migrations combined with tight-knit local education systems built a highly connected, deeply structured society. This lineage diagram represents the core political unit of early African communities. Extended families drew power by tracking their history back to one shared ancestor. Many Bantu villages were matrilineal, tracking their descent entirely through their mothers, a structure placing immense importance on female ancestry. Women wielded significant economic and political authority, often controlling village markets and the lucrative palm oil trade. Others, like Queen Dahlia and Queen Jinga, governed vast lands and led armies against foreign attackers. Early African communities drew their strength from vast family networks, managed and protected by female leaders. This chart traces the first major fracture in these societies. Beginning in the 600s, Arab expansion fueled the Trans-Saharan slave trade. Millions of people were captured and forced on a dangerous journey northward across the desert to labor in the Islamic world. Centuries later, European demand for raw materials accelerated the extraction of human lives to farm labor-intensive cash crops like sugarcane. European nations captured between 10 and 13 million Africans, brutally stripping them of their freedom and forcing them across the Atlantic Ocean. The constant demand for forced labor drained these communities of their strongest, youngest members, causing local populations to plummet. Regional leaders increasingly waged war on neighboring groups, specifically to capture prisoners to sell to slave traders. This bronze musician was cast in the West African state of Benin, a society celebrated for its brilliant artists and thinkers in the 1500s. As Benin was pulled into the transatlantic slave trade, its population shrank, warfare spiked, and the production of this intricate art largely ceased. The brutal capture and sale of millions of people steadily dismantled what was once centuries of civic, economic, and cultural progress. Captors could confiscate property and enforce brutal physical labor, but they could not erase the knowledge stored inside human minds. This vocal tradition belongs to the Griot, an oral historian responsible for memorizing and reciting a village's entire ancestral record. Enslaved Africans carried this storytelling practice across the ocean, verbally passing down their history to the next generation. Through group singing, precise drum cadences, and rhythmic dance, enslaved people expressed their religious faith, documented their harsh reality, and maintained a connection to the homes they were stolen from. These specific historical cadences evolved directly into the spirituals and the blues, providing the exact acoustic architecture for jazz, rock and roll, and modern rap. The civilizations of early Africa suffered devastating attacks, but their deep cultural networks proved entirely unbreakable, ultimately providing the heartbeat for the modern world.